Okay, let me go back to the music here, folks. Hang on. I think we're using this one. Yep. have about 10 seconds, ladies and gentlemen. So hang in there. All right, Reed. We're good, baby.
a nice little webinar for folks so they can learn how to go from $500 per client to $5,000 a client. And some are charging even more, Dr. L. Thanks for being with me here today.
My pleasure. Let me just say to everybody, I know that mostly everybody here is already an FDN graduate or in FDN. Some of you are actually sitting, listening to sort of in the background of what we share with our FDN people, so we want to welcome you. However, as we said in all of our promotional stuff, we said that number one, nothing will be sold. So if you have any questions about the FDN course, do not ask us. You'll see inside the chat a link that Jess put in there. And that link ultimately will be for you to connect with a career counselor after we're done with our event if you want to. So do that. Also, you could put a comment inside of Facebook. We're on Facebook and we're on YouTube. So if you put a comment in there, you'll also be able to connect with a career counselor. So that takes care of the business of those people that are just hanging out with us. We said that this will be 30 minutes. We're going to do our best to stick with this. And ultimately, Reed, I think we should just go ahead and share the screen and get right to the slides. Let it roll, baby.
Are we up?
Looks gorgeous.
All right, beautiful. So this is how you go from $500 per client to $5,000 a client. I've promised my FDN graduates since 2008 that they will at least 5 times what they are already making now as a nutritionist or personal trainer or whatever it is you're doing. And nowadays we're very confident saying 10 times what you sort of used to be worth as a graduate. So I hope you guys are all charging enough money. Let's just go hit the slides here, Dr. Al. So this is what we're going to cover during the training. Simple strategies to get clients to pay you thousands of dollars for your services. Why people use emotions or only emotions to make healthcare decisions and how to connect emotionally with your clients. Why the friction of your offer is stopping clients from saying yes. How to get clients to say yes to you, even if other health coaches are a lot less expensive, and they are, and good on them. And understanding why all clients feel pain when they spend money and how to eliminate pain. Anything else, Al?
Well, I just want to say that, we've put a lot of time into finding these 5 points. So each one is hugely valuable, and we're going to really go through each one.
Outstanding. Well, before we do that, I wanted to go over something that most FDNs know. Without comprehensive lab testing, you are not meeting the client's expectations. And I'll make sure I can see everything. For some reason, I'm not, Dr.
I see it. We're in the
okay.
Yeah, keep going. You keep rolling.
So meeting client expectations and needs. You're not looking at the whole picture person. You're not assessing metabolic chaos. You're not creating personalized self-building plans. Basically, you're taking a shot in the dark. What we have here are the rings. This is the different causes that are upstream, whether it's leaky gut or cortisol dysfunction or food sensitivity. The reason why people can't find the root cause is all of those things are bumping into each other. The complexities is where the problems are. Am I right?
You're right. So let me use this as sort of an analogy or maybe a metaphor. So when you look at that pond and you see all these ripples, and think of it this way. If you throw a rock into a lake as an example, you get all these little ripples, and the only person that knows which was the first ripple is the person who threw the rock. But you don't know which was the first ripple as an observer, and the truth of the matter is that all clients that come to you, they don't know where the first ripple is either. They know they have a myriad of symptoms. And the key, go back to that slide, please. And the key to really understanding this is that you need to realize that because you don't know which was the first ripple, you must treat every ripple, and we call that metabolic chaos. Now, in reference to what we're talking about tonight, I want you to realize that only you, an FDNer or someone who's graduating from FDN, has the ability and the knowledge to treat metabolic chaos. That's what separates you from everybody else in the health coaching space. That's what gives you the ability to charge more than anyone else, because when you offer something different, you could then go ahead and set your own price, and we're going to talk about that. So, Reed, now we can go to the next slide.
All right, thanks. I love explaining this one because the term metabolic chaos is a phrase that I coined when I realized almost 20 years ago that there were all these multiple causes and that they were bumping into each other. What I call vital voids is another expression that explains why the same stressor in one person can end up with completely different set of symptoms in that person, and then a completely different set in the next person. So you take someone with thyroid function problems, they've got the typical thyroid symptoms. We all know what those are. Well, that's part of the endocrine system. And endocrine dysfunction may produce thyroid symptoms, but it's also going to contribute back to more metabolic chaos in the body. So guess what? Depending on the weak links or vital voids, it ends up with nerve cell problems, and they end up with brain fog and cloudy thinking or bad sleep or what it is. Now, when you only ever treat the symptoms, guess what? More metabolic chaos occurs. There's a cascade that goes on. You end up with carb metabolism problems. Therefore, you have blood sugar problems, even though you eat perfectly well. Well, that just contributes more to metabolic chaos and end up with fat and protein metabolism issues and weight and fat distribution or whatever the problem might be.
Yeah, so I want everyone to think of this picture as the same picture we saw on the previous slide. Each one of these are that ripple in the lake. You don't know which one was the first one, but you'll notice that each one of these red arrows has two heads, one going each way, because every one of those ripples contribute to that main ripple of metabolic chaos. And they contribute to metabolic chaos, and then metabolic chaos causes another ripple, and ultimately it leaves you understanding that because you don't know which ripple came first, that the only thing that you can treat that is related to all things you see is metabolic chaos. It's your ace in the hole. It's your holy grail that no one else owns but an FDNer. No one else teaches it. No one knows what to do with it. This is really, you got to hold on to this, because as we go further down, you're going to see this is your ticket to ride. So we'll talk about that.
Right. So how do you figure this all out? How do you start sorting things out? Well, when I first realized that there was metabolic chaos, and that was the real problem, it was the interaction, it was the complexities involved in all of these different causal factors bumping into each other. So I ran thousands of labs on thousands of people. I came up with this pattern, HIDDEN, hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification, energy production, nervous system. Believe it or not, there's a very small, inexpensive handful of labs that you can run on every client and figure out what are the healing opportunities within these areas. You are sorting out metabolic chaos. You're going to address metabolic chaos as a whole person, and be able to work on them all at the same time. That way you're not diagnosing and treating a specific condition like a physician does, and you can end the cycle of trial and error that people are in. Because believe me, they've already been somewhere and someone says, it sounds like thyroid, or it sounds like adrenals, or it sounds like digestion, or it sounds like a parasite, and they'll run one test, and that person may actually get some improvement. But until you learn how to run the entire comprehensive assessment that we do with these 5 labs and address all of the complexities at once, you're going to have someone that you might make a little bit better, but they're going to end up going down the street to someone else who will also just run 1 or 2 labs and never figure out their real problem. They'll never really sort out metabolic chaos.
So I'm going to ask, this is your first test for everyone who's listening. Get ready, this is the first test. Which of these 5 labs would you run when a client comes to you? Each one of these labs represent a ripple in the lake. Which one would you run? You have to run all of them because you don't know which ripple came first. And that is really the key. You don't run one test. You don't tell them, oh, you sound like you have leaky gut. You sound like you have a thyroid problem. No, you run every test, because what they all have, without fail, is metabolic chaos. So you run every single lab that's listed here.
Yeah, I'm just going to give you a tiny bit more about my background. I started in 1998, going on 99, so 22 years ago roughly. Kind of known for the guy that ran more labs than anyone else. I just didn't know you can't do it. But the reason I did that was because people were coming in the office where I was working as a nutritionist with problems they'd already presented to at least 5, if not 8 or 10 other practitioners. Now, I personally didn't have any health problems, so I didn't know what the modern medical system was like. I just didn't know. So the first exposure I had to it was people coming in going, well, I've already been to 8 practitioners or 10 practitioners and weren't better yet. Now that kind of upset me. I thought, what a ripoff. And I decided I was going to be the last person they needed to see. I had some champion top notch of the alternative medicine field as mentors. But when you run 10,000 tests on over 10,000 people, you observe who gets better and who doesn't. And so those are the observations I made. I filled in the pieces of the puzzle myself. I developed the FDN and terrestrial health success protocols. So now we've taught you guys how to fill that needs gap and the cyclotron there for those people. And we also practically invented distance coaching, which is now super critical because of everyone's working out of their houses.
Yes, like telehealth. But again, for you, those of you that are just coming on, realize that we're not selling anything here. We're going to try to wrap this up in 30 minutes. We probably 7 minutes is probably 8 minutes have already gone by. If you're not an FDNer, we are not entertaining any questions about the course. You'll see a link in the chat, and if you make a comment, in social media, you'll get a link. I think it's in there already, Jess. And that link will connect you with a career counselor about FDN if you want to do that, but that's not what this is about. I just want to say one last thing about Reed, and thanks, Kim, for your great... Kim just said FDN's an amazing program. Thank you, Kim, and we agree with that. And ultimately, I want to say one thing. No other health coaching program out there has a guy who's done over 10,000 tests. That adds to your credibility because you'll never, or I shouldn't say never, but for you to run 10,000 tests is a big undertaking. He's already done it. So as an FDNer, you have the experience of somebody who's already run 10,000 tests. You can't find that. That's amazing.
Thanks, Dr. L. So here's the next thing I had to invent after I decided that it's metabolic chaos. That's the one concern that a health coach has. It's metabolic chaos. Of course, there's a lot of little things going on, but you actually can address it all at one time. And so when I started teaching in 2008, I kind of developed the system, and it's developed a lot more since then. But I had to come up with a way where the average health coach and person can get their labs done. So we developed one of the very first direct-to-consumer programs, the FDN Medical Director Program. All graduates and all you guys know that you can use this. This is how you meet the client's expectation needs. They want to run some labs. They don't want to just have you say, well, it sounds like this, try my supplements. It sounds like this, try my therapy, or try my new diet, or try my new, whatever it is. They don't want to hear from a physician that your tests look normal and there's nothing wrong with you, because they know there is something wrong. So it's recommending a series of tests. They're all available in your FDN Connect portal. The client receives the test kits. We take care of everything. We ship them the kits. The client pays the lab fees. You receive the test results. You're able to assess those along with their client's history and meet with the client to review them and resolve metabolic chaos. And there's nothing like this. Even though this is a 12, 13-year-old program, I haven't seen anything like it yet.
Yeah, so I want to talk about the first point, Reed, meet the client's expectations. Every person that comes to you, whether they've seen a medical doctor or a number of medical doctors, or even seen other health coaches, here's what their expectations are, that whoever is going to help them is going to run lab tests. They've been pre-programmed their whole life that when I go to a healthcare practitioner, whether it's a medical doctor or someone else, the way they're going to decide what's wrong with me is they're going to run tests. So by you meeting those expectations, you run labs. And the way this program is set up, you would never be able to run labs as a health coach if you weren't part of this program. So that's golden. Number two, there's a portal that you go to. It's very simple, and you order the test. Which test do you order? You order all the tests. Why? Because you don't know which ripple came first in the lake, so you got to fix the main ripple, which is metabolic chaos. The other thing is the patient doesn't pay. The client doesn't pay you for the test. They pay the lab. So the lab fees are not seen as an expense from you. they're seen as an expense from the lab. Just like if they go to a lab and get blood work, guess who they pay? They don't pay the medical doctor, they pay the lab. So they don't consider that as part of the doctor's fees. They don't consider the lab part of your fees either. So your unique edge here, and you got to remember this as we go into your ability to charge more than anyone else is, you treat something no one else treats, and you could run labs as a health coach that nobody else could run. 2 points in your favor. We're going to show you how to use those points as we go on.
Okay, so Dr. Al has a diplomat in neurology, so I'm going to let you explain this slide. I know pain, buying causes pain for people, but how does that work?
Okay, so ultimately in the world of functional MRI, functional MRI is where they wire up your brain and they really do a sort of an experiment and they see what part of your brain lights up. And all the studies that have been done, and there's like hundreds of studies been done, and you can look those up. Ultimately, what they see is every time someone has to part with money or buy something, the part of their brain that lights up is the same part of their brain that of where they interpret pain. There's no difference between someone falling down and hurting their leg and the part of the brain that lights up when you go ahead and have to spend money. So let me give you examples, though, of things that happen that cause people to feel pain and things that cause people not to feel any pain. So you go to buy an automobile. You'll see it says that right on the screen. You go to buy an automobile and the car's $30,000. Well, let's just say it's the average price of a car these days. And the salesperson says, do you want to add undercoating? And you go, how much is the undercoating? And the salesperson goes, it's $200. You go, yeah, what's another $200? Do you feel pain for that $200? No, because you already feel like, I need that. You've already in a situation where you're buying a car that you want and need. So what's $200? Now let's turn it around. So you go into a 7-Eleven, and I'm sure everyone has a 7-Eleven where they live. I don't have one where I live, but we have similar type stores. And you go in there for a bottle of water because you're real thirsty, and they charge you for like a 12-ounce bottle of water. They charge you $1.29, depending where you live, maybe 99 cents, maybe $1.39, who it is. And you pay it, no problem. Now you're on the beach, and all of a sudden, you're parched. It's hot as hell out there, and you need a bottle of water. You go to one of those things on the boardwalk, and the same bottle of water costs you $5. Do you feel pain when you buy that? No, because the need is there. You have to fulfill it. Now, I'll tell you one last story. My sister, who lives in Manhattan, would go to Reed Drugs. They're called Reed Drugs. I don't think you own them, Reed, but somebody else owns them, Reed. And ultimately, she was buying these cough drops that she really liked, and they were $7.50. She bought them for years. All of a sudden, she goes in there one time, and they raised the price of the cough drop to $15. Do you think that caused pain? Oh, yeah. That caused so much pain that she called the manager over of the Reed's pharmacy and said, I've been buying these for years at $7.50. Last week they were $7.50. Now they're $15. He goes, well, I really can't help it. That's the price. She goes, I'm never coming back to your store again. Did she feel pain? Totally. Because it's really, it's the context of what you charge in the patient's eyes, and the value of what they need determines what you could charge them. That's a key point. Remember this. People hate to be sold to, but when they feel they're getting something that they really need and want, they don't feel pain at all.
So it's about the context, right? Let's look at the next slide. Why people use... Yep. Why people use emotion to make health decisions. And I think just about any decision, people use emotion for all decisions. Relationships, finances, spousal choice, I would hope. It's all about the benefit to them, and it's never about you. It takes very little time for these things. I'm actually down in Cabo right now, and I started looking at condominiums, and I haven't seen anything that turned me on. I can see the value. I could rent it out when I'm not here. I'm looking at the money, the financing, the down payment, all that. All that's the technical stuff. There's not been one place I've seen it has just been an emotional, I've got to have this place. And so I'm not buying anything. And you go on and do the rest of the slide, Dr. Al.
Yeah, so I'm going to pull out a little neurology on you because the brain is divided into two things: the rational brain and the emotional brain. Now, as Reed said, people always make decisions using their emotional brain. Why? Because it doesn't require any energy. They just sort of react, and they then use their rational brain to justify it. That's why some people get into bad relationships over and over and over again, because they don't rationalize it. What they do is they make emotional decisions, and if they're wrong, they're wrong. If they're right, they're right. But because the brain, the rational part, takes so much energy, literally energy, ATP, to make that, people avoid it at all costs. So they pick their mate by emotions. They make their healthcare choices by emotion. They send their kids to a school by emotions. We know right now that in the political world, emotions are running rampant. Everything's emotions, and it's because it's easier to use those emotions. You need to appeal to their emotions in helping them make their decision, because when they make their decision based on emotions, they will then rationalize why. If you try to do it rationally, well, we are, I really do know a lot about the adrenal glands, and sounds to me like you have a leaky gut syndrome. In a leaky gut syndrome, we find that the membrane, no, that's rational. And when you give someone rational thought, guess what they say? That sounds interesting. I'm going to look up what they said and see if what he said makes sense with everything everybody else is saying. When you give someone a rational explanation, they want to research it. When you appeal to their emotional centers, they go, that's what I need. Sign me up. Always appeal to their emotional center.
Hey, thanks, Al. So it's also never about the money. And I've learned this in the course, even in pricing our course. And when you guys signed up for it, and a lot of people do have financial objections, but it's really never about the money. Once we get down to explaining the value that we're offering, then it just takes money right out of the equation.
I have to tell you a story. You see there's a picture of a dog on there? Well, so a number of years ago, and Reed knows I'm a dog person, so a number of years ago, I had a dog, and all of a sudden he started vomiting every night. My wife and I rescue dogs all the time. By the way, we are celebrating our 40th anniversary today. That was a good emotional decision, yes?
Congrats,
anyway,
yes.
Yeah. So my dog started vomiting every night. I took him to the vet. The vet did a blood work. Why did the vet do blood work? Because everyone expects you to run a lab. I already told you that. So he does blood work, and he tells me your dog's in kidney failure. He has 6 months to live. I said, no freaking way. I love this dog. So what happened was I went online and I found a doctor in California. I'm in Massachusetts, a vet. He said, listen, you need to take this dog to an intensive care hospital, get him on IV 24/7, and get him on doxycycline drip 24/7, because it sounds to me like he might have Lyme's disease. In the Northeast, we have Lyme's is rampant in Lyme's disease. I'm right near Lyme, Connecticut. So anyway, I go there and I bring my dog in and I say, listen, I want my dog to get an IV for the next 7 days. I want him to get a doxycycline. Here's the vet who recommended it. They said, no problem, but you can't leave your dog until you pay up front for the treatment, because too many people leave that dog and never pick him up. So we have a policy, you must pay for the thing. I said, no problem, how much is it? They said $7,000. Now, I don't walk around with $7,000 in cash in my pocket, I have to be honest. So do you think I was going to leave my dog and let him die? No. I took out every credit card in my wallet and I said, I don't know what's on these credit cards. Just start running them through and rack up $7,000, because I was attached to that dog. And when you are attached to something, it has nothing to do with the money. If you take any one of your clients, if you create the value for them, if you tell them something that leads them to believe what you do is something that no one else has done before, and you could offer them the solution, that they're looking for, and only you can, because you're an FDNer and you do metabolic chaos. It doesn't matter if you tell them it's 3,000, 5,000, or 7,000, because you are hitting them exactly where you need to, and that is on an emotional level. My dog was an emotional experience for me. Their health is an emotional experience for them. Don't make them rationalize it by giving them facts and figures. Make it emotional and make it about them. They will never bring up the money. They'll never say, oh, gee, I didn't expect it to cost that much. They're going to say, when do we get started? That's the key. Metabolic chaos is the door to giving you the ability to do that. Those of you who just joined us, we're wrapping up. We probably have about 10 minutes left at most. The other thing I want to say is, if you're not already an FDNer, although most of you are, there's a link in the chat that you can contact a career counselor and ask them about signing up for the course. We're not selling anything here, and we're not taking any questions about the course. Reed, go ahead.
Okay, so obviously there's a reason why we want to change their belief system. How do we make that change? And what do we change their belief system to, Dr. Al?
So here's what I found. I'm an FDNer, by the way. So here's what we find is the best way to do it. So when someone comes to you, there's a 9 out of 10 chance they've come to you after they've been to 2 or 3 other doctors and maybe 2 or 3 other health coaches, maybe more. And they come to you and they tell you their story about what it is that the problem they're having, how long it's going on, how many times, how many people they've seen. And the first question I always ask is, do you think you have a rare, incurable disease? And they go, no, of course not. I say, well, if it's not a rare, incurable disease, why hasn't anyone been able to cure it? And they go, I don't know. I said, I'm going to tell you why. Because everyone's trying to treat the symptom that you have. How many times, be honest, raise your hand, how many times have you told a client before you were an FDNer, oh, you have leaky gut syndrome? It sounds like a thyroid problem. Sounds like, you have an adrenal problem, a stress problem, a liver detox problem. They're used to hearing that. You can't charge more money if you're telling people the same nonsense everyone else is telling them. So we explain to them very, very simply, listen, people who function properly don't have any symptoms. You have an expectation that I'm going to give you something, or someone's going to give you something that's going to take away your problem. Everyone that you've gone to has the same expectation. They think they're going to give you something that'll take away the problem, but that doesn't work. But the key is that people who function properly don't have your problems. So for you to have your problem, you have a dysfunction. Guess what we call ourselves? Functional diagnostic nutritionists. What's our specialty? Function. You have a functional problem. I'm a functional specialist. We are going to be able to help you with your problem. I know what's wrong. I can help you, and I've helped lots of people with the same thing because we make them understand they have a functional problem. And what is that functional problem, everybody? Metabolic chaos. It's that simple.
Yes, sir. So people pay more for perceived value. I picked this picture here because, how can you put a price on a vacation with a beautiful spot? You pay anything for that, sunset trip, right? Maybe it's not the best graphic, but you get the point. People fly first class. Why? Because it has more perceived value. It's just a seat in a plane going somewhere, but they pay more for it. People also pay more when you use free gifts, first class service, and all the things that, like in our course, we give away a ton of stuff. You guys know that you got, you get extra certifications, you get all of the lessons, of course, you get the guidebooks, you get everything that we give out. You get to work on your own health. We do 3 free labs with every person who signs up for the FDN course. You got your adrenal and hormone tests, you got your gut test, you got and the other tests that we do, the stool testing for bugs and things like that. So we give away a ton. We always give more than what we're charging for, frankly.
Yeah, why do people buy Apple computers and pay 3 times, 4 times more than they pay for a PC? Because it's the perceived value of an Apple product. Why do people drive Mercedes-Benz? It's a perceived value of that car is worth its money. Why do people have a Harley-Davidson motorcycle, Reed? Because you have one. I have one.
I have a Mercedes-Benz too.
And he has a Mercedes-Benz.
They're the
So,
coolest.
right, because it's the perceived value that they're worth what you're paying for them. You need to make what you're giving the client the perceived value that it's worth more than anybody else. And here's the good news, FDNers. It is worth more. You don't have to make that stuff up. It is worth more. You should charge more. If you don't charge more, guess what? You're saying to the client, well, I'm the same level as everybody else that you went to. That's why I'm only charging what they're charging you, even though you're doing something totally different. Perceived value.
Yeah. The seats in my Benz actually hug you when you're going around corners. You literally, the car knows which way you're going, and it will put pressure on one side or the other to hug you a little bit so that you just feel more comfortable or something. I don't really know. But it's so creating anchor points. This is really important. We give them an anchor point that when they compare it to another product or service, the other product does not have that anchor point. Like Starbucks, I never could figure out why people would pay $5 for a cup of coffee when they only cost 50 cents.
Right, and the anchor point for coffee in everyone's mind was $2 before Starbucks came along. And to be perfectly honest, that coffee's not even good. It's so strong, it tastes like burnt. But you know what? They've created their own anchor point. But here's what you need to know. Every client that comes to you, in their mind, they have an anchor point because every other health coach that's doing the same thing that you're not doing, because you have metabolic chaos, they know what those people are charging. That's their anchor point. You need to be Starbucks. And what gives you the advantage to be Starbucks? You do lab work no one else could do. You treat metabolic chaos. You learned in the course, you learned it already or you're in the middle of the course, how to give first class service, how to deal with the client at every single level, how to interpret the labs. Ultimately, the people that you hang out with, realize this. In order for you to establish an anchor point that's higher, you must do more, and you have those tools. You just have to use all those tools. When you do a lab test, which lab test do you run, everybody? All of them. Why? Because it's what separates you from everybody else. Because you need all those to find out where all the ripples are coming from. Metabolic chaos. Be the Starbucks of health coaching. When you're the Starbucks, do they pay you more? Yes. Not only do they pay you more, but they pay you without lighting up the pain centers of your brain. They pay you because they're happy to give you their money. They understand now they have a functional problem, which they didn't know before they came to you. They know you're going to help them, which they didn't have hope before they came to you, and you're going to do something different. If you've ever said to a client, you have a leaky gut syndrome, you have thyroid, you have just doomed yourself to do what everyone else does and literally charge what everyone else charge and fail just the way everybody else fails.
So true. So true. So another thing that Dr. Nell and I have been studying lately is this idea of friction. You and reducing that friction so that you make it really, really easy to start your program. You almost do it for them. You must reduce friction. Al, tell us more about that.
So Rita and I have been talking about friction for a long time, and I'll give you the perfect scenario. Jeff Bezos of Amazon's one goal in business was, I'm going to figure out the friction that every other business has, and I'm going to remove it. And if I can remove that friction, the people are going to start coming to me. Well, of course, the rest is history. So let me give you an example of friction. When you go to Amazon, you could buy anything in the world in Amazon. The shipping's free. You don't have to leave your house. And it turns out, of course, during COVID, you couldn't leave your house anyway. Number one. Number two, if you ever got one of those little Alexa things, you put one of those Alexa things in the laundry room, you put one in the bathroom, you put one in the kitchen. It finds your wireless without you telling it how to do it. Guess what? You're in the laundry room and you go, oh no, I'm out of laundry detergent. Alexa hears that, sends a note to Amazon. Amazon puts your laundry detergent that you regularly buy in your shopping cart and literally sends it to you. 2 days later, you get new laundry detergent. You're in the bathroom, you go, oh no, I just ran out of toilet paper. Alexa hears, man, he's out of toilet paper. What does Alexa do? Orders a 6-pack of toilet paper or a 12-pack. 2 days later, you got toilet paper in your house. When you remove the friction that are in people's lives, you literally open the door and they walk through it. And we talk about this, and Reed, I know you have a list. Credit cards, make it easy for them to pay. Make it automatic payment. Not that every time they meet with you, you have to tell them, okay, today will be $150 or whatever that is. No, get money out of the equation. Get everything done. Who sends them the labs, Reed?
We do.
We send them the
We
labs.
take care of
They don't have to do
yeah.
that. Who orders the labs for them? We order the
We do.
labs for them. We do everything for the client. Why? Because ultimately what happens is we remove the friction. When you remove the friction, they slide right down into your program. They do what you say. They refer their friends and family because they get results, and they get results with the least amount of effort. That means they don't have to do anything. No, they have to, of course, do what we tell them, but realize when they have the goal in mind, knowing they now have a functional problem, knowing you do something different than everybody else, ultimately that removes the friction, and it's an easy process for them to get better. And what do they want more than anything? They want to get better. We got a nice comment from Debbie Potts. We got a nice comment from Debbie Potts, by the way. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, I'm not able to see the Facebook, but it makes sense. We started doing this over 20 years ago because I was lecturing around the office because I worked out of an office like most of you, and now I don't. I work strictly from home. But back then we had an office, and I was lecturing at all the libraries around Southern California, around San Diego. And I started lecturing farther and farther away because, you run out of libraries and they've seen you before, and you want to spread your wings. And once I started getting to where I was 60-minute drives from the office, I realized right then and there that I had to find out a way that I could work with them where they didn't have to drive 60 miles to come and see me in the office. So I started carrying around a trunk full of test kits, and I'd go to these libraries and give a talk, and they'd be up to the front of the room at the end of my talk saying, I want to take home the test kits. And so I had them right there in the room with me or in my trunk, and I would do the transaction right there. And I would say, look, you don't even have to come in the office. I will mail you a package of all the test results, the graphs and charts and things we used to explain them. And I'll go over it with you on the phone with your spouse listening in on an extension line in your home. So we were doing that over 20 years ago. That was before cell phones. All they had was a pager and a fax machine. And we were reducing friction, and it worked like a charm. It was beautiful.
Yeah, I want to say one last thing.
Go ahead.
I want to say one last thing about friction. People are so opposed to friction that if on a form on your website you ask for their last name in addition to their first name, they won't fill out the form. That's how much they're against any kind of friction. They've been programmed by Amazon for no friction. They'll give you that first name, but not your first name and your last name. They'll give you your email address. Rarely will they give you their mobile number. Friction, it's the thing that stops everyone in their tracks, because in their mind they say, why do I want to put up with this friction? I'll go over here.
So the beauty is that once you get the labs done, you've got their history, and you've sent out the kits, all of that stuff that we do, the actual resolution of metabolic chaos, once you know the healing opportunities in these different 6 areas that we do, the HIDDEN, getting results is actually pretty easy. We simply coach up vital reserve. That's that innate intelligence. It's in every cell. It's in all your tissues, all your organs, all your systems. The entire organism has an innate intelligence that keeps it all, or wants to keep it all balanced. We coach that up with our DRESS program. So not only have we figured out all of the labs that have to be done to figure out all the healing opportunities, all of what Al calls the stones in the pond, causing all the ripples and all those problems that are all bumping into each other. It's really, really simple to teach the person to self-treat it. It's DRESS. We have a way of uniquely customizing that based on the lab work. That's another thing, and the reason why you got to do them all. And once you do them all and you come up with a customized, highly, we call it bio-individualized program, then you just help them follow it. That's where health coaching really kicks in, is when you've got the program based on the labs. And then at the same time, of course, you have to coach down the contributors to metabolic chaos, but it is that easy. So steps 1 is to run the labs and get all their history and complaints and all that. And work in these things that we've been teaching you about what are their motivating factors, what's the emotional connection, how are you going to reduce friction for that person, make it really easy for them. So those are the principles involved. Then it's just a matter of getting the lab data, putting the program together, and running the program. So we coach up vital reserve, where we coach down the things we found on the lab work, the dysfunctions, the hidden stressors, all the contributors to metabolic chaos, all the little stones that were thrown in the pond to make those rings.
Cool. I'm good. Rob, next.
So another thing we want to talk to you about just real quickly is the Association of FDN Professionals. We now have, again, this is that over delivery. I could just teach people and say, hey, now you're taught, you're trained, go out in the world and do some good. Go forth and multiply. But it doesn't work that way. It's like, no, they want to hang out. They want more information and more information. They want support. They want all of the things that we now deliver.
Yeah, I want to say something about this too. One of the challenges with you as the FDNer is a lot of you don't take advantage of all these things that are here. Some of you think, well, I'm not at that higher level of the rest of these people, so maybe I shouldn't attend these events. Maybe I shouldn't go to Clubhouse. Maybe I shouldn't go to... No, they're here because this is how you get to that higher level. Everyone in FDN, everyone that's graduating the course, and those of you still in the course, realize this. These things are here for one, to make you the best health coach on the planet. Don't wait until you become the best health coach on the planet. Become that by being part of all the things we give you. That's another advantage that you have in FDN. Take advantage of it. That's why it's here.
Yeah, we have over 500 members. The picture you're looking at is just the party that we had in San Diego a couple years ago. Amazing group of people, wonderful, loving, and great people. Another thing that's just kind of thrown in, if you will, is the ability to learn and earn your credibility. Not only will you get your FDN certificate and be able to use the medical director program and help people, all these people all around the world. You'll get other certifications too. The American Association of Drug Use Practitioners, the American Association of Wellness Coaches, the American Natural Wellness Coaches Board. By the way, I'm on their advisory board to some of these groups, not to mention all the groups that grant FDN CEU status. Anything else here, Dr. Al?
No, I mean, this is like, to me, this is a gift.
So you guys are prepared. I'm just trying to help you grow and teach you that it's kind of simple. You have a proven system that the top functional health professionals use to unravel metabolic chaos. Stay in your lane. It's a big, wide lane. There's rarely a person that comes to that you can't help make some improvements and sometimes completely resolve their complaints that no one else was able to make even a dent in. It's a completely science-based system. You run the right labs, you individualize your protocols, resolve metabolic chaos. You get to be the last person they need to see. But not only that, you get to work for yourself. You're going to follow this lifestyle of working basically when you want, charging what you are really worth so that you can afford your own personal trainer, your own organic foods, your own time off and meditation and yoga lessons and whatever it is you want to do. Feel amazing doing your best work, helping clients to feel and perform at their best.
Yeah, so ultimately summing up, because I think we're getting to the last slide. Yeah, so let me sum up. Number one, what you want to do is do something that no one else is doing. It gives you the ability to set your own anchor point, not everyone else's. What is that? Metabolic chaos. It's the ability to relate to the client on an emotional level. And how do you do that best? By sharing with them what you know about their problem that's different than anybody else. You then go ahead and remove the friction that they would expect to see and they're used to getting. You remove that friction. You do all the labs. No one else could do the labs. No one else could solve what you solve. And ultimately, as a consequence, they will pay you whatever it is that you ask. That's why FDNers could charge $5,000 for some other health coach who's charging $500. You do the math. That's 10 times. How successful can you be doing 10 times the money that you would do if you're only a regular health coach? Anyway.
Yeah, go ahead and wrap it up here, Al, okay. And I'll turn the back to us, end the slides whenever you're ready.
So, okay, so two things here. Number one, if you are, as a student, as a grad, all the things that we spoke about, you just have to go to your FDN Connect portal. And everything's in there that we spoke about, all the tools that you need. Take advantage of everything. Everything we talk about's in there, and the way that you do it, just go in there. If you're not an FDNer, although most of you here, I believe, are, and then you could go and use that FDN today at career slash career. Talk to a career advisor. If you're interested in the course, that'd be super. Or you could email them at fdninfo@afdnp.com. We are also doing this event again on Thursday at 11, 12, 1, 2 o'clock my time on the East Coast, 11 o'clock Reed's time on the West Coast. And we're actually also doing a Sunday morning. And why do we do these things 3 times? We do them 3 times because each time we bring a little something different to the table. Most of you FDNers come to all 3, which we love, because ultimately we remember, oh yeah, you know what we didn't talk about? Let's talk about this, let's talk about that. I'm going to bring back that screen. That's a great idea, Reed. Yeah, now we look like we're framed. Looks like we've been framed. So I think we're good there. Yeah, and that's really, I think, wraps it up, Reed.
Beautiful. I just want to say hello from Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. I'm in a condo down here, so it looks like I'm trapped in Chernobyl. Uh, that explains that. I'm in some safe house somewhere. But no, I'm just visiting because you can do this work from anywhere in the world. That's kind of what I love about it most. I get up every morning, I work really hard, and then I go outside and play. So thank you for being here, and follow that fdn.today/career if you're interested in talking to our counselors.
And we'll see you Thursday, right, Reed? Oh, yeah, one other thing. I'm sorry, Reed. Everyone who's on the call today, of course, just by being here, you're going to get a copy of what we did. You're going to get the video replay. They're going to send you the replay. The other thing you're going to get is a link to a survey. You must fill out that survey. Why? Because it tells us what we could do to even make you more successful. What do you want to know? What do you want to hear? That's what we do. Do the survey. Don't blow it off. The survey is for you, not for us. So go ahead and do that. And I'm going to put in, if you're on social media, I just put in the link. I think Justice gave us that for the careers link. Yeah, so that's right on your screen right now in YouTube and right on your screen right now in Facebook. Let's get out of here, Rita, and go eat.
Okay, happy anniversary. I'll say hi to Susan for me. Talk to you later.
Thanks, bro. I will do. I'll see you Thursday.
Got it.
Cheers, everybody. Let me end the stream, end the stream, end the stream.